What's going on, traders? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Want to do some analysis here on the E-mini S&P futures as well as the NASDAQ for NQ. We're going to go over the economic calendar, of course, some weekly charts, daily charts, and break it down for some day trading levels as well. Of course, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and in no way should be viewed as financial advice. All right, so it's Saturday night. Let's crack open a beer here and get into the economic calendar, what we've got in store. Remember, it is a short week. We do have Wednesday off, and then we will resume trading on Thursday and Friday. So just keep that in mind. Also, another thing I want to go over is the fact that we are going to be rolling contracts soon for the futures markets. So some brokers will automatically roll over your contract. Just make sure that you are trading the correct contract. I probably will not switch over till about maybe I would say Tuesday or Wednesday usually, but that is also just dependent on the volume. So just keep that in mind. We are coming into rollover week, and that can also affect the way the market can trade. So we have lots in store as far as that is concerned. Let's get into the economic calendar though, and let's get a sip of this beer here. All right, here we go. For the economic calendar, let's look to see if there's any major events we want to pay attention to. All right, so what do we have here? Monday, got Harker speaking at 1 o'clock. Looks like we actually have a lot of Fed speakers this week. Tuesday, not too much in the morning, but then we do have more Fed speakers with Barkin, Kruger, Logan, and let's see who else. St. Louis Fed president and also Goolsby at 2. So I've got a nice run there of Fed speakers. Wednesday, of course, as we mentioned, we have the day off. Thursday, initial jobless claims, and then quiet from the speakers. Friday, we have flash services PMI at 9:45, but mostly a quiet week for us ahead. So that is great to see. All right, let's get into some charts now, and we're going to start off, of course, just with candle structure and, candle position and structure of the market, starting with the weekly chart here. Now, ES basically here has had, and actually let me open up. Basically, had a little bit, you'll see when we go over to NQ, it's going to be a bit cleaner, but basically here we have a weekly flag breakout here on ES, but we have definitely had a divergence in the sectors. Once again, these guys cannot stay in lockstep. I find that interesting as they've kind of been taking turns making all-time highs. But basically here we do have a nice weekly flag breakout, briefly touching new all-time highs and kind of struggling. I believe that we touched new all-time highs on ES earlier in the week, and then it kind of was unable to really recapture its glory towards the end of the week. But what are we going to really be looking for now, right? Well, still, when we just look at the candle, of course, we just made a higher high. Let's zoom in here. We just made a higher high, and the main thing we're going to be watching, right, is if this structure of the breakout can hold. So that's going to be the main thing that I'm going to be watching for next week, for potentially if we do get some type of a pull-in, will we come back, pull in here, and that line here would probably be right around, it's the week of the 6th, last week's high here, or the week of the 3rd, excuse me, 53.85 half. Okay, so, and we're going to go to another chart, of course, in a moment. You can see we really can make a bit of a a demand area right around here, which I'll illustrate. But if we're just going to go from the top, that would really be where I would be watching for some type of a pull-in, and then we go ahead and make that move in the upward direction like that. All things well equal here, it seems like 5,500 is around the corner for the futures. Will it hit that first, or will we go into contract rollover first? Well, I guess that might be the question. It is about. Oh wait, I think I already rolled. It's actually a matter of fact. Wait, September. Oh, I already did. They already rolled me. I am pretty sure I'm off the June contract. Seems to be so. Okay. So there you go. Let me see. I'm pretty sure because I have it set up. Oh, this doesn't do that. Let me look at it really quickly on my phone. Okay, Thinkorswim has rolled, but it looks like, at least from what I can see on Trade-of-8, that it has not rolled yet, and it's still on June, but it might update that on Monday. So I'm going to pay attention to that. Okay, so this is going to be on the September contracts. All right, and I will also still monitor where the volume is, if it's still trading on June or what, and I will follow the volume. Normally, I don't like to, this feels a little early. Normally, I don't like to switch over until Tuesday or Wednesday. So, but either way, we're going to go with these numbers because that's what we have here. So, what we're going to be looking at again is this structure here that needs to be held. Basically, if we're going to do the support, we can even come in, or if we want to do the demand, we can even come in and do something like that. So even a weekly pull into this area is all well and good as long as we don't start to break back inside of the prior balance, which we were watching in last week's video, right? We were talking about this. We were saying that, we needed to obviously break out either way to see our move, whichever way it wanted to go, and it has now decided which way it wants to go. So now that we have this new bias here, we can certainly afford any type of a daily higher low or a weekly higher low as long as it comes in and respects the prior breakout. And we'll come into some other charts. So everything's looking good here, but we'll still note that divergence as we mentioned. Weekly starting to get a little bit spicy again here on our overbought, oversold indicator. So I am going to still be paying attention to that as it creeps back up. We have been still monitoring that monthly, as we've already spoke about. We're halfway through the month here, but it is still obviously very hot here. But you can see the balance now that we've finally broken out of and pushed up higher that we were watching really at the start of the month. All right, why did this change this? I don't know why. Okay. All right. Let's come into the daily chart now. All right. Now, although we had that weekly bull flag breakout, what's the daily really looking like as well? Well, the daily, we could even say we could make a case for some type of a bull flag here. Last week we were talking about that 5,400 level as one of our targets that we were looking for to the upside. Now, obviously, that we are over it. Now, granted, we are on the new contract, so keep that in mind. But we are over that, and now as long as we do hold over that, everything's free and clear, in my opinion, still for the bulls. So don't get kind of mixed up from the bigger picture perspective. If we pull back even into here, for example, as we've already been in, it can even pull back a little bit further. That's all welcome. We are clearly here above all the moving averages, although it does not look like they have adjusted yet for the contract change. That will probably happen on Sunday when markets open up here on Globex, but you can see they're still at 53.89, so way off there. But either way, let's just keep in mind here that any of those pullbacks can really set us up. Do I want to be entering long here on any new positions? No, really, no, obviously not, because the risk reward really is not there from that swing trade perspective. But if we come down into this area here, okay, then we're talking about a much better risk to reward, and that's our main focus and goal, right? So Let's remove this. Let's remove this. What I'm also going to do here, and I don't have it. Oh, I don't have it set up on this one. We'll map out for next week. We'll take this at the high. To the low. Lower body. Open. There. Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna keep these levels definitely on watch next week from last week's range, and then I am also going to boom right there and our EQ. So I will keep this area here in line. Okay, if we do really start to trade, you know, and this is again from a weekly or daily perspective, let's just sneak back over into the daily. Now that we've got that set. Cool. So anywhere up here, I believe we are vulnerable. Now this is really, we're vulnerable to the short side because we can see something like this, right? But we could also see this and it only come into 54.35 half and then make another attempt up into the equal highs here. That is another potentiality, or that also could end up just being a nice little intraday scalp, and that might reject again for another time. But either way, if that isn't something that you're looking for, we can obviously wait for it to push up over and then come back and retest, and then we look for that high like so. But as long as we're basically trading over 5,400 for me, 53.95, we could even say, still going to be in that bullish bias, right? So as long as we hold over, I'm going to be looking for trades up into right here at that 54.35 half, 3/4 basically, and then potentially coming up into the last week's high at that 54.50. And then a potential short there, or we obviously look for the breakout. If we're trading underneath 5,400, then I will be more focused on trades to the lower part of our balance, and that's going to be down there at that 53.50, 53.33, 53.33 half, we'll call it. If we start really seeing sells below this, now obviously we just went over the breakout perspective here for the bulls right now, but if we see this is another scenario here to see the next really bigger move. So we'll have to see you know, what happens and who decides what. Shorter week, so it is also very possible that we spend time just playing games within this range or potentially within this range. We'll have to see how everything ends up clearing at the end of next week, but I would have to say, you know, if we end up down in this lower part of the range, then maybe we'll have a little bit more of a bearish tint, as you know, that would be technically potentially a little bit more of a bearish kind of consolidation for the potential move, breaking us down lower. And likewise the inverse here, if we're hanging out above 5,400, well, then we're just flagging out high and tight for that next rocket ship up higher. So I'll be watching that for the rest of this week. Okay, that's everything I really wanted to go over at the daily. Let's just pay attention here to that. I mean, we've had a massive run, you know, over the last 3 days. We had a little bit of consolidate, you know, we had our running, resting, running. What's more likely? Well, we're going to see probably price action like this. So be very, and especially because it's a short week, so just be aware, contract roll. We might get a little bit of that as well, but be prepared for any situation regardless. But at least we want to just be aware of that potentiality. Okay. Let's get into some of the day trading levels here now for ES, and we will go over those together. and get a little bit more granular if I could find them. Here we are. Okay. Okay, we're still trading really in the same areas here. I'll extend this. Okay. We're really trading in the same areas here, so not too much has changed. So what I am going to kind of look at here, and here's where we closed. All right, so if we're here, this is kind of no man's land for me, right? This is, what is this, about 11-point range here between 54.30 more or less, 54.40 half. So this might be somewhere where you would just say, okay, this is not ideal price conditions right in this area. You can see already when we've traded in this area, a lot of fakes right here, tried to break above and then came back down. So a lot of inconsistency in this zone. So I would say be careful. If you want to look for maybe a little bit more of a high probability trade, wait for a 30-minute close, for example, or an hourly close up over here. You can see sometimes even the hourlies don't work, right? Because this was an hourly close and then the next one really failed here. But if we really start seeing, 30-minute closes, of course, check those internals as well to help guide you with that potential underlying strength in the market. That might help you stop from getting faked out. But if we see some consolidation here holding up and above, get 54.40, then we can look for about 7 points higher to come into about 54.47 half, maybe 54.50, anywhere in that area. So I would watch for trades to come up into here. But of course, we could see some potential bears come sit in and bring us down. So we want to be aware of that for a take partial or exit zone. However, if we are able to break over and we come back up, or we would head up and look for that target at the weekly highs as we were just discussing on the other chart at that 54.54 half. Okay, and then there, of course, we might want to look at a short trade of definitely probably be out of most of the position, only in small, for that hope that maybe you can get this. And of course here, if you miss this move, if you're unsure, then you miss this move, and it comes up and comes back, okay, then you've got another opportunity on the retest, and the same for here, right? So take your pick on how you would like to potentially attack that market. Okay, so for the bears, though, really, get a little bit more interested in that short side underneath 54.30. Okay, we start seeing some price action right down here. I might expect the market to come down into the 54.23 half, 23.75 area. If we do break down under, I would be looking to come into these lows right here at that 54.16, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we broke under here. You might see a flash dip just like we saw right here at 11. So you could also look for here as well. And you've got two areas where really it might come down to here, both these two wicks. So I would also say that if we broke under 54.16, you could look for 54.13, and potentially this one probably would be more likely because we've got two here basically in the same area. I would say maybe 54.09, 54.08 more than likely, I would say, could be the next potential target. And ultimately, coming into 54.05 half would be the next area where either A, I would look to completely exit, or just hold on for that dear little bit, to see if we could actually come down into that 5400. But again, we already been over about that being that key pivot area. You can see here the low, boom, right into it. So that also, if you really want the even more, because as we were talking about, that this generally, although tradable more or less in the bigger picture, is that sideways chop kind of consolidation, right? But if we if we break under that 5400, obviously, as you can see, we can come down and take air. We mostly worked out the auction. I think the last week we were talking a little bit about that thin structure here created. I'm not sure if we did or not, but either way, we had all this thin structure here created on the, what was this, the CPI print? Yes, this was, I believe this is the CPI Wednesday. And we already kind of worked out a lot of that on this downside move here. So that's mostly worked itself out. Got a little bit of trading done here in this lower quadrant. So I would say mostly that inefficiency probably has worked itself out. I could go into the volume profile, but I'm not going to do that at the moment. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much what I've got. Let's see, under that 5400, let's look for maybe 10 points or so thereabouts lower. I could see that definitely being at the next target down into that 5391. So all right, that's everything I've got for ES. Let's move right along and get into NQ here and take another sip of our beverage. Okay. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to just go over this chart really quickly because we'd already... But this has been the chart that we've been kind of working on over our last videos. I just wanted to bring it back up so that we can kind of like just look at where we've been and what will kind of like, you know, what we had projected here. And since, you know, this kind of had given us our operating kind of thesis. Okay, so you can see the 5400, right? Boom, we just went over that in the day trading. Here's the box that I told you about. And here we are. So hold 5400 is the key. And just another illustration of, you know, what we've been over. Okay, cool. Actually, is there anything? Is there one more? The trend lines. Let's just see if we're interested in anywhere in the trend lines. That was interesting. Oh, I need to clean this. Oh, no, that was when we were dropping last year. All right, so this is interesting. Banging up against this big trend line here. So we'll watch that. Did the daily close under or over? Oh, right over. Not bad. Not bad at all. Where was the... Oh, okay. Here, now we're finally back up in this area. And I want to clean this chart up, but this was from back years ago. Interesting. I've been meaning to clean that up. I don't trade ES as much, so... I don't look at it as much as I used to. All right. I need to fix some of those charts up, though. But everything's good there. Okay. Cool. All right. NQ. Let's go over the NASDAQ 100 here. Let's look at our weekly blank chart. Now, look at this. Now, you really can see... Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to do. Now, you really can see how much stronger of a breakout NQ had versus ES. And actually, I do know what I wanted to go over here really quickly, just so that you can also denote the difference here. Look here on the point of control and the value areas. Now, the value area here on the last session did slightly move up, but you can see here how we're really trading more or less in a balanced market overall. As you know, in the last few sessions, it's just been here, right? Where NQ, when we look at the TPO later, you're going to see an expansion of the range, and we're more like trading up in this area if not, if not higher. And in fact, we are higher than this. So you can see here the point of control and the value moving down. We just want to note that divergence overall in the markets and just see this here, how basically for ES, even though we did have that flag breakout, you can see here, right? Let me get my drawing going. Right? Balance, 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 run. Now, running, resting, balance. So we just have to note that here as that divergence. All right, let's get back to NQ because we saw that chart and we saw how much stronger. And you can just see here the difference in the profiles, right? Point of control, moving up, our value areas moving up, and a very distinct higher high. Okay, so let's go back into our regular chart. And actually, oh God. Damn. Okay, so you can see really the strength of this breakout. Versus the E-minis. Trying to zoom in here. It's not letting me do it the way I want to. And we had, right, same type of situation. Boom. 20,000 on deck. Right. So we've already hit our 19. Here we are in the September contract. Same situation here, right? The immediate area that we've got to hold is going to be, right, this prior breakout. And that more or less, well, it's about 60 points lower here, but let's look at the low. The high, 19,155. Okay, but sure. We can make that concession. What we really would want to see here, or no less, is if we do pull in either a 25% retracement, the most bullish, or we can go for the mid candle and make it 50%. And that's off. That's probably about 25. You can use the fib to get the 50. And then if you want to use the 32, the 23.6 on the fib, that's fair. But I just say 25.50 to make it. So the most bullish scenarios, or you get, right? We start trading under, just as we've been before, just as we spoke about before. Okay. Whoops. Wow, those are... It's not going to work. Just like we spoke about before, we'll look to trade to the bottom part of the range. So we're going to mark these off. Oh. Here's again the range break. Running, running, running. Resting, resting, resting. Running. Range expansion. compression, expansion, right? Inhale, exhale. Okay, so now we don't have, unfortunately, did we close at the freaking highs? Basic, no, but don't have anything on top here. So we're going to, I'm going to have to mark it off like that. All right, so we're going to do, wow, they really blocked us by 2 ticks to the full whole figure. That's funny. Oh, shoot. Okay. And then we'll get the low. The low is 940 and then 974.25. 974.25. Okay, perfect. All right. And you can really, if you really want to peg down your 50%, you can do it like this. You know what, though? I don't want to do it from the wick. Okay, perfect. All right, so as long as we're trading basically over 19, you could even say half, because the EQ always can have even more manipulation. So you could even say 19,350. Anything above that, and we're still targeting the upper part of last week's range. Of course, I'm speaking as if we're trading on Monday or Tuesday, so we will look for the upper parts of last week's range. Now, of course, that is on a longer time frame because we are looking at the weekly. So is that going to happen in one day? 19,400 all the way up to basically 19,700. Is that possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. So this might be over a 2, 3, 4 day period. So just keep that in mind as we are looking at the higher time frame. But this will still give us a little bit of a weekly and daily bias overall if we're over that level. Under, we'll be looking to trade down into the lower part of the range. I would be also paying attention to the high of this weekly's range right here, which is 19,155. So I'm also going to mark that off because it's just good to know there. And I'm going to just kind of denote it with a different. All right. So we might not actually make it all the way, just considering how strong the market is. So at least maybe anticipate some type of bidders coming in this area. That is another potentiality to watch out for. So, all right, let's get into the daily chart now here and see what we can take away from that. Okay, so you can see here, it's definitely a bit clearer that if we start to break under, and really from here, honestly, you could really take it down to the high of this, the candle of the 29th which is 949 basically. That is also something that I would consider, which also the low of the 7th, which is at 940. So just keep that in mind here as well. You could kind of extend this, but here we've got our levels. You can see here we do close right at the highs, extremely bullish, but I would be careful. We'll have to see how Globex opens up. We could start to pull back, but as long as we're holding really here, if we want to get a little bit more intraday from another perspective, that as long as we're holding the low here, we have perfect double bottom, basically equal lows right at 19,500, right? So as long as still here, this, this 19,363 or 19,6, we could call it 19,360, really give it about 3-point leeway there. That's going to give us our weekly bias, but if you want a daily bias here, as long as we're still trading over the lows, these equal lows, which is 19,500, we can still look for a bit of that bullish bias intraday here and look for potential trades up into wherever we are, but it would still be looking more or less for dip buys wherever they may come. We just also have to pay attention, and just as I mentioned, we could see this as well. If we're seeing that high and tight consolidation, watch out for those fake breaks. We could come up, look above and fail, and then come all the way back down. Conversely, we could look below and fail, and then make our way all the way back up. So, remember when we're in that balancing price action as we're working out the auction, you get a lot of that fake breakout kind of stuff, and we have to be aware of that and just be prepared and not be married to any position. So intraday we can say truly, although this gives us a nice range to play, 500 to 700, very tradable for sure. From the daily perspective, unless we see moves over that, it's going to be hard to see the next quote unquote bigger move. So under the 500, then we might get 40 or 50 points down lower into that mid range, as we had mentioned. Under that, okay, then we can really start to unlock some trap doors. Here we have tons of thin structure here that really hasn't been retraced in the same way that it has on ES. So definitely thin structure here, still open to a potential sell. If in fact, I would say under 5,400, it would be very likely that we trade down and work out a lot of this, basically this volume pocket here on the on NQ. It would not be hard to trade down and hit this EQ. It really would not surprise me under 5,400. So watch out for that. Again, now if we get under that 19,360, 19,350, then we probably would come down here a bit lower into 250 possibly, and even down potentially here into the last week's high. I would definitely see that being very likely at that 19,515, more basically in that zone. So let's watch that. Still watching here, potentially getting really overbought here on the daily. Weekly, I did not look at that while we were on the weekly. Let's just look it over. Getting a little bit spicy. Monthly, of course, is still spicy, so want to pay attention to these overbought readings as well. Doesn't mean to go ahead and short the market, but definitely something that we want to pay attention to. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to go over from the daily chart perspective. Let's see if there are any more of those charts that we were looking at last time. Here's one of them that we were watching. Okay, everything's fine and well there. I can just mark off this as we move along for us next time. What's actually the low? 53. Yeah, okay, so it's too high. Boom. Okay. So let's see what happens next time. Okay. Let's get into some day trading levels here. For the snazzy Naz. Okay, this one's a little bit more tricky because we closed basically right at the highs. So, you know, unless we get over 19,700, it's really hard for me to long here. If we get a close over 19,700, 19,705, and I start to see, some candles hanging out here like so, okay, then I can look for, that next move up to 50 and then potentially 19,800. But more or less, we already talked about the bigger picture target from the weekly time frame, 20K. We will see if we can get there, but that's what we've been thinking about. So let's see now. Otherwise, if we start to reject here, we could look for a type of a rounding top. Then we can potentially come back down into about 19,650 thereabouts. I would look at that as well. What we could also look for here is if price comes back, look above, fail, come back and retest for the short. You're shorting here, and obviously the risk is over the swing high there. And we then look for our first target here. See, we might have a little bounce, but ultimately then we would look for this lower part of the range here down at that 580, 580 more or less in that area. Could get a little bit lower. Pay attention to that for that potential short trade. Under that, we could come down lower into that 19,542 area, 43, somewhere in this area. Under that, then we would look for trades coming down into basically that 19,500 area, which is that key pivot that we want to pay attention to. So anything under, again, that 19,500, okay, then, and you can see the equal lows here that were created. We've already kind of been over that. But if we really start to get under that, watch out below. It's not going to be very hard. Next target really is going to start to chew through again some of that weak supply here, or excuse me, the weak structure here that was created from CPI, which we did retrace on ES. We did not retrace it on NQ. So are we setting up for something to come in like that? Of course, that is anybody's guess. We're just going to follow price action. We don't know, but yeah. So let's see what happens. But under that 19,500, definitely feeling more bearish, down 50 points lower, and then potentially down here into 19,380 more or less. Maybe it would be 385. We will see. Anywhere in that general zone. You know how NQ is. She will move 4 or 5 points within the blink of an eye. So somewhere in that area, targeting basically right down here. If we break under, then we could potentially trade down into 350. So would I potentially be looking for a dip buy here? Yes, potentially. We could look for a long. Certainly, if it comes down here, we might get some type of a back test and then break down like that. That is a possible path. If you're looking for something like that, yeah, you can get a nice little trade out of that. That's 50 points. Maybe you only get 30. Maybe we only trade, into this area here. and basically, I don't know, the 19480, something like that. So that's that, we might not get all the way. That being said, you could also just wait for this bounce and then wait for this nice retest, because what a back test that would be here. We're seeing price come back up here to retest where it bounced twice. Previous resistance, previous support becomes resistance. You know the drill, simple as pie. And then we get that bigger move all the way back down. As mentioned before, we could also even break up over and then do some type of a fake break scenario, as well as here, as I mentioned earlier. So we got to watch out for that as well. Would I be rushing to buy the dip here? I might try, with smaller size, but I have a feeling that this would be one of the areas where I would try, only for it to break, and then this ends up really being the area. So I might try this for a bounce play, and it might work for a little bit. You might not get the full move or that full move all the way, but I would be more inclined to try something like this if we all came down to the 380s. Yeah, I might, have a little bit more confidence in a trade like that, because from there, depending on when the session started, we could have already been trading. And again, if we're down 200, 300 points, yes, then I'm really interested. We're trading down 75 points, maybe not as interested, but we're trading down 250 points down to here. We're kind of maxing out NQ's daily ATR, just depending on what day it is. But that would be a really nice spot to at least give it a shot. So we will watch that. But here are pretty much these major areas of interest I am watching and pivots. So, all right, let's get into some of our other charts here and wrap up the video. What else are we looking at? Some developments in the dollar here with CPI and FOMC. Now, we were talking about earlier, basically, here, bigger picture, sure. We're still trading in the range overall, so that is all well and good. But we are still back over, and I was very surprised at this. Let's get... Okay, here we are. All right, so here we were watching, right? We were watching the recapture of the triangle here, the compression. We came back in, and we came right back up to retest, right, this breakdown of the prior balance here that we had come back up, right? Come back up, retest. A lot of liquidity in this area, because that's where that breakdown originated from. So we came back there, retest. Now what is possible is from here, I'm going to mark this off either way, so we just have it not ugly. We'll mark it off like this. There we go. What could potentially happen is we're probably just going to go up sideways. This would be the most bullish, basically holding over 105.50, 105.45, the most bullish consolidation. A little bit weaker underneath 105.50. But the fact that we are trading on over 105 now is a little bit interesting. I do think the markets have acclimated to the dollar being a bit higher now, so I don't think they're as sensitive to the price of the dollar versus what they were maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Excuse me. Another beer time, but I'm adjusting another chart. But we are still, again, my position on the dollar has really been since, we really started getting over 104. Still bullish. Hate to say it. Overall, I don't want, the dollar to be bullish per se. But we have to follow the charts. Oops, that's not the one I wanted to go to. Here we go. Okay. We closed basically right here, right on a level. We'll see. I think it'd be more likely, since we closed on it and the way this daily candle looks, I think we'll probably come back and retest 500, and that would give us the chance to make another move higher in the markets. We could see a bounce there. We could just end up doing this. Let's see if we get over and we actually hold over, then that's that bullish consolidation that we were kind of talking about. But I don't think the dollar is really going to have too much, or the dollar really not going to have too much of an impact on the market until probably if we see price get back into this prior balance here, then maybe we'll start to see a little bit more of that influence. But gosh, it really seems like the market's doesn't care about the dollar unless maybe we see it back up at 107 again. Only time will tell about how it reacts. But just from what I'm seeing, overall, it just doesn't seem to bear the same weight that it once did. So we will still be monitoring this bullish development overall in the dollar. It certainly looks like it wants to trade higher. Again, we'll have to see if it closes next week over 105.50 or under 105.50, and then I think we'll have a little bit more clear picture of what we will be looking at as far as the dollar is concerned. All right, let's get into TNX here and take a look at the treasury yields and see where we are standing from that perspective. And then we will look over at TLT, of course. I think that there have been some interesting developments in the bond market as well. Oh God, looks like I just lost my MMA bet. All right. Now, oh, okay. Look at this. Okay, so this is looking good. I like what we've got here, right? Tried to break above. Now, I think that this is interesting. We would think the dollar would be up here. I mean, the TNX would be up, but it's not. You'd think the TNX would be up with the dollar, but it's not. Here, we've clearly broken under 43. That was really the line in my sand I was talking about for the last, I don't know, however long, a long time. We're under here. Everything's looking good. We've got a downtrend really starting to take place here. We've got three lower highs being put in. Let's adjust it. Looking good as far as this is concerned. This can help alleviate pressure here on the markets. We could see any potential bounce up into this area here. Could be shorting opportunities for lower. Chance we come down. Let's see if we trade down into here. Okay, round 40, 40 half, 40 quarter, somewhere in that area. All right, everything's looking good here. Look, this looks pretty bearish to me, so looking good. Let's look at TLT. Bonds doing what they need to do as well. We have been watching this chart. I don't know why. I don't know about you guys. I like looking at this in the line chart view. I don't know. I kind of like line charts, to be honest with you. So we had the two bigger trend breakouts that we've been watching. This doesn't go back long enough. It's only 1 year. Bigger trend. We broke out, came back, boom, retested, up, boom, retested, boom, retested. Almost broke here, right? And we were watching this, and we were scared this was going to be a break, but ended up being a look below, fail, recapture, inverted head and shoulders, boom. Now we were watching this reject here, came back up, did its thing, perfect basically, BRB setup, boom, boom, boom. Perfect. We were talking about, I think, 94 last time for a potential price target here on TLT. Looking good for that. Maybe we said 94.50. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. Probably can see a bit of resistance here, so I will watch out for a slight pullback here as we come into 94. But I will watch ever so closely. Oh, watch ever so closely. We could get, it would be more likely than not to see something like this. Maybe we double top, I don't know. But maybe here we just either, run sideways and do a high and tight. But I think pulling back, we'll probably pull back here into 93.40. And watch there, then the TNX will set up on that bear flag, right? So watch that. Pull back here, get a little dip in the market. We come right into about 93.5 on TLT. And then, I don't know if we make it over, I'm being an optimist, but then we explode up into 96. Over 94.70, I'm saying I'm calling out for TLT 96, 96.5 for the next target. Under the July 5th high, well, then we'll probably get a bit further retracement. If we do, that obviously TNX is going to go up more, and that could put more pressure on equities. But TLT bonds doing everything we needed them to do. Looking bullish, looking good. Not quite overbought yet, but we'll watch. Getting close. We'll note that. All right, let's look at some of our other internals that we like to look at here to help us navigate this market. I appreciate you guys spending the time with me here as we go through the market together. Actually, I wanted to look at... Let's pay attention to CL here. I want to watch oil. Breaking back into this triangle. Okay. Breaking back into this compression looks very similar to what the dollar did, right? $80 is a big level. I'm going to be watching that 80. 80 half. We get over that, we can have some issues. Over 83, over basically 84. And watch for 87 again. But oil's looking interesting to me as it's gone back up into this area. Matter of fact, I'm going to take a picture of that. All right. Let's look at the bonds. Okay. Since we're on the bonds, let's just stay on the bonds here. Looking at the junk bonds here, HYZ, okay, a little bit of a divergence I'm not too much of a fan of here. We can see SPY as well, and I haven't done a SPY video in a while. But we can see SPY making a higher high here into this massive trend line. And what is HYG doing? Well, it's coming up, but it is still in a downtrend. Bearish divergence here. This leads me to more believe that we could see some downside, I think on Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, early part of the week while Wednesday's closed. So Monday, Tuesday, possibly look for some of that downside. Bearish divergence here on the bonds. That is interesting. All right, let's get into VIX where we normally start off. VIX mostly crushed down here in our complacency level down at this 1140 area, kind of a little pop up. I think it had a 7%, 8% day one of the days here, mostly flat on last session. I think it was last session that it was up 8% because, yeah, around 5 in the morning it came up to about 1340 and then kind of sold off for the rest of the day. But still kind of in this complacency zone. Let's watch to see if we kind of get a kind of a loop type of pattern, something like this. We see price kind of come up and then drift back up. That's a potentiality, so want to watch out for that. Put call ratio coming up just a little bit. Interesting here to see that rise a little bit in the bearish direction. So I will take a note of that. Nothing really, though, any extreme or contrarian views when that's concerned, when that is looked at, not high enough, but we'll take that into a note. Let's look at how many stocks are trading over their 50 period moving average and their 200 period moving average. Okay, starting off with the SPX 50 are all right. We are still below the 50% mark. Okay, so this I'd say is another red flag here for the markets. All right, red flag, and I haven't looked at this one yet. So red flag number 2 here. Still under 50%. That's not good from a breadth perspective. And we are still firmly under 75% here on the 200 period moving average on the lower part of your screen. So, okay, another little potential warning flag for some pullbacks. What's going on under the hood? I do not like the look of that. I much prefer this to be over 50%, and then we can come up higher. So watch out, but we could come down just a little bit, maybe into that 40% reading and kind of go like this and then bounce back up. You know, if we came in a little bit lower and bounce up, so watch out for that. But either way, under 50%, a little concerning. So another potential red flag in the pocket. All right, let's look at new highs versus new lows. All right, what do we have going on here? Below the zero line now, and look at that, kind of a look above and fail. We were watching kind of this 75, 80 area here to see if we could get some readings over that. It looks like that just did not happen. A good attempt. Red flag number 3 or 4. I don't know which one we're on now, but this is another red flag for me. Overall, we're below the zero. I mean, it's not a drastic reading by any stretch of the means. You can see here on the 29th, we had similar readings right here at this negative 55. So does that mean we could potentially come up and bounce? Of course it does, but we're also setting up for a potential kind of death rattle into the zero line, and then maybe we come down and see readings down at this negative 117 area, 116 once again. So let's look out for that. Another reading here under the hood that the market might not just be as strong as we potentially think. And I think that is reflected a little bit in that divergence between NQ and ES that we have been going over. And actually, now that I mentioned that, let's just take a quick look at the RSP really quickly, because I think we looked at that last week. I do not remember, but either way, we are watching this, and okay, yeah, and I'm pretty sure we did watch it. This is not what we want to see out of the RSP. Now we're still holding. Remember, this is the equal weighted SPY. Every, in the normal S&P, Apple has a different ratio of weight, and Microsoft, they all have a different ratio in weight. This equals every stock completely even, and this gives you a better understanding of the breadth of the market overall, the overall strength. And here we've kind of broken this trend line. That is a little bit concerning, but coming into this 163.50, 163.60 area, so it could hold here for the bulls. So let's hope it does. Maybe a possible move back up into 164.30 area, and then we might get rejected to equal lows. I don't know. Maybe we break down. If we do break down, likely target down here, I would think we would come down into about 162.80. So watch out for that. If we do, in fact, break under the that 163.50. And I think that would be much of a bearish development, as then we could potentially bounce, just back test, and then go ahead and make more lows there. So very interesting. Although it's breaking the trend, we're coming into the support area. So I can't say that this looks another potential red flag, but you know, there is a saving grace in the fact that this level might hold up. Just let's take a quick look at the equal weighted tech sector here just to see. And okay, another divergence there that I'm going to pay attention to. Techs, you obviously were looking at NQ, and here we're seeing the tech sector not even making a higher high. The same as the NQ. So, okay, want to pay attention to that divergence very, very closely. I'm going to post this later on as well to my Twitter. If you guys do not follow me, you can find me on my link tree. All my social media is posted on there, but it's also at _shark_trades. That's how you find me on Twitter. But we can kind of make a case for a little inverted head and shoulders, right? Head here, shoulder, shoulder. Let's just watch this it's kind of a Quasimodo inverted head and shoulders, but potentiality of breaking out, you know, if we actually do get over. That would look healthy, but equal weighted, if, you know, we got QQQ making a higher high, but equal weighted not. Okay, very interesting. All right, let's get back into it. Let's here, and now we've gone over new highs versus new lows. Let's look at the bond ratios here. Okay, everything that we wanted to see from the bond ratios, this is looking great. You can see here, here's our swing low, higher low, and we pushed up. We broke now clearly over this area of resistance. This is what we wanted to see. Got a little bit scared earlier in the week with this potential look above and fail, but we were supported right here, basically at the highs from the 10th. So boom, low or swing low, higher low, higher low. Now we've made our higher high. Same situation here, just that can give us the potential of a pullback on the market. Nothing crazy, but watch to see if we have 7-year come back down 115.50. We'll just mark it off for shits and gigs. Pull back in the market, pull back here, and then we bounce and head up higher, pushing the markets up higher. Let's watch for that scenario. Bond ratios doing exactly what it needed to do. Swing high, lower high. Oh, under the 50 period moving average. Perfect. Love it. Bullish, bullish here. Good. Transports land. We went over this last week about the importance in Dow theory. What's going on here? We did, in fact, come into the 1490. We were talking about this level. Nice bounce there. Really nice. About 300-point bounce here, more or less, on the transports from this area we were watching. Nice work if anyone caught that. A big bounce. Okay. Still vulnerable here. Friday, the markets were up. Transports down 163 points. Okay, good college try, but you can see here this base around 14,900, 915, anywhere in that area, 950. Unless we see price get back over that, it's still looking pretty nerve-wracking. And as we mentioned, it can still come up to 15,200, 1550, still look bad. If we get over that, we're looking a little bit better because then we're really starting to create a new trend. But, you know, we're still open to some pain if we don't get over 15,570, basically. That would look a little bit better. But nice bounce here. We needed that. Still a little bit vulnerable overall. The Dow ES was flat on Friday. Dow was red. Maybe it comes in to retest the POC at this 38,700. Could reject there. Still looking. Dow's not looking good. Interesting here. We had QQQ make new highs. Look at the ADD. Internals, breadth, just not good here, down in the negative 1500. Spent a lot of the week really down in the net under the zero line. This isn't bullish, so watch out for that pullback. Look at the outflows on Friday. Yeah, not too hot. It's mostly for SPY though. All right, what else do we got here? I think that's everything. Oh, VIX futures. Let's look at that. Don't think we have rollover quite yet, honestly. And look. Let's keep an eye here on the VVIX. This is rounded. Same type of situation going on. It's in that complacency. Starting to come back up. Let's watch. This starts to drift up. Have an island bottom, rounded bottom there. Could get something like this. Pay attention. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to go over. Really appreciate you guys taking the time here with me to prepare for the market. Remember what we say at the end of every video, a prepared trader is a profitable trader. So remember, plan your trades, trade your plan. I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. If you are new here and you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification button. And if you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. I will see you guys on the interwebs. Enjoy the rest of the weekend again. Take care and have a great rest of the day.